Hi, everybody. I am here. We're all here together. Um, I'm also a little early, which is totally fine. Let me just respond to this one text. Just came in. Okay. All right. So, who is here? I see Peen is here. I see our tech host is here. I think I hear our tech host. I think their audio is on.
I'm sorry.
I actually thought, I was like, oh my god, like my thoughts are alive. I'm trying to control them.
I'll text someone to ask.
Sure. Yeah. And Nikki's here. Okay. Great. Well, maybe for the next 3 minutes, we can just allow ourselves to sit comfortably and relax. It's Friday. The lecture results are looking good. Yeah. This week is turning out okay, for me at least. Hi, Sean. All right. Great. So the timing has changed, so that may change, who's here. I got invited or kind of voluntold to come to a meeting at 2, which I had to go to. So I'm here now, and this is the only time this will be held at this time. So, as we've done in the past, let's see if we can bring ourselves into a meditative state. Allow your body to get into a comfortable position and allow yourself to take some deep breaths with every inhalation. Inhale what it is that you need right now. And as you exhale, exhale whatever it is that you don't need in this particular moment, this day or this week or this year, this lifetime, whatever it is that you don't need. So if you're feeling you need love, or if you've been feeling like there's been a lot of adrenaline coursing through your system for the past couple of days, just, the stress of watching, try and allow yourself to, ask for what you need with on the in breath. So it could be deep rest, could be healing balance, internal balance that heals. Whatever it is, take some time to allow yourself to experience that. And then, as we move into the next moment, now's the time to rely on whatever Mahamudra instruction is most salient for you. So, if it's using breath as an anchor, rely on your breath. If it's using a visualized object or an actual object in your field of reference, then you can use either one of those. If it's thoughts that arise in this moment, very kind of nature of your mental continuum as a anchor, go ahead and use that. Allow yourself to settle into the space, gently letting go of everything that's preceded this moment, and gently letting go of any ideas or concerns about what is going to happen later. Allow yourself to let go of this moment itself. Right? Just shake off the concepts, shake up or shed or let go of all the stuff we put on the present moment. Be here now. Just be present, blah, 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 like all this stuff. Just let that go. Get out of, stop being Buddhist. Just be. And then try and relinquish any need to analyze what's happening. Allow yourself to see if you can rest mindfully in a state of awareness that isn't analytical, that isn't, conceptual, doesn't ask us to check in and, wonder, how's this going? Am I making any progress? Is this worth my time or effort or money or all of that stuff? Let go of the need to do anything. Don't do anything. Just rest, relax in this moment. And we'll sit like this for a little while. slowly bring yourself back to this particular moment in this particular group. So as always, if anybody has any questions left over from last week, you can feel free, or anything since last week, feel free to put them in either the text box or the Ask a Question tab. What is it like to be able to experience stillness right now? This week is so, every week, it seems like the past 4 years have been so intense, but, this week, I think there's been a lot of nail biting, and, a lot of reactivity, which makes sense, right? As the text point out, and as we experience in our meditation practice and our daily life, the mind thinks, right? The mind tends to be active. Sometimes it, is still, but part of its quality is thinking. Right? So that's not that unusual, but it can feel very unusual when we're wrapped up in a lot of thought, maybe a little anxious thought, and what is it? Can you let yourself take a break? Can you let yourself stop and rest into whatever's arising? Not only rest into whatever's arising, but also open up to the possibility of there being spaciousness, and perhaps within the spaciousness, this kind of undergirding stillness that's kind of like the backdrop for thought activity. So yeah, if anybody wants to say anything about that. The one thing I've been hearing a lot over the past week, and not just from Buddhist Parsha folks, but just in general, is sometimes this sense of guilt. Oh, things are so intense. I should be out there doing stuff, not necessarily practicing. And I know that sometimes there can be a sense of guilt in just stopping to slow down, and stopping to engage deeply into Lotus 6 nails, letting go of past, future, present, etc. And it's worth the work to begin to discount that guilt, to recognize that so much of our practice is about practicing into awakening. And if we feel guilty about that, then basically we shouldn't. So Payne asks, are repeated short sessions of, say, 4 to 6 minutes as, quote, effective as longer, say 24 to 40 minutes? So yes, I think that these shorter sessions, again, like a lot of this has to do with the way in which we even think of or conceive of what meditation does, right? So we are very conditioned to believe that the amount of time you put into something yields an equal amount or a proportional amount of result, right? So if I'm making $20 an hour, and I work for 3 hours one day, that's a certain amount of money. And if I work 10 hours the next day, that's a different amount of money, right? Now, the thing with meditation really is that there is the opportunity for there not to be any difference between 4, 6, and 40 or 24 minutes. Each time we enter into the practice, we're touching into the nature of mind. Right? So I think it's really helpful to look at what it means on an individual basis, right? So this is, it's going to be a little different for everyone. How we relate to, like, the time we meditate, and these kind of very unconscious ideas of, like, well, if, like, for example, I was, when I was doing Nindro, I was in Sikkim, and entered into basically kind of like doing Nindro basic in retreat, and I was mailing, I was kind of writing to my dad kind of back and forth, and he wrote this funny letter back to me asking if practice previous to doing Nundro counted as money in the bank, so to speak, so I wouldn't have to do the whole 100,000. And it's an interesting idea, like this money in the bank thing. Oh, if I do, like, if I put in 24 minutes of meditation, that's so much better than 4 minutes and 46 and 72, and you know what I mean, like, and the thing is like, it's really much more like touching the ground, right? Meditation is this experience of touching the ground of the mind. So it doesn't matter if you do it in a 40-minute session or if you do it in a 4-minute session. It's the touching into the ground of the mind that's the most important thing. That's the thing that disrupts or cracks up or begins to pulverize all of our intense conceptual elaboration. Right? So if we do 40 short sessions during the day, that actually may be more effective in keeping us on average, on a whole, over the course of a 24-hour cycle, much more attuned to the nature of mind than doing one 40-minute session, and then being completely out of control the rest of the day. Does that make sense? So sometimes, the answer to this is rooted in what we think about the way meditation is, and I think you could even say, like, economies of praxis, So if we can get rid of these, weird, kind of very unkind, non-flexible relationships to time and kind of like anxiety-based accounting. The thing is like, there's no difference between the experience of Mahamudra and the quality, like that Vajra-like quality that we see exemplified by Akshobhya, the Buddha Akshobhya. So Vajra-like in his quality, right? So his unchanging vastness, right? That's the experience of mind. That's what mind is. And so anything that brings us there, whether it's a 10-second meditation, is equal to any other thing that brings us there. And that Vajra-like quality, it's like, the same thing as when we talk about Buddha nature, it's always there, it's always constant. So it's not like, when you go to the beach and you can get to that, like, particular spot in relationship to the water, where you dig a hole and then the water, you can there's water there, right? I've got little kids, so we do this quite a bit during the summer. Then you dig and the sand gets softer as you go down, right? It's not that we have to, like, every time we meditate we have to like dig that hole. Oh my god, okay, fine, there, now we got the, we don't have to do that. So again, because this is a non-conceptual meditation, anything that we can do to really screw with our concepts um, is helpful, especially with respect to time put in, ideas of effort, um, and all those things are weird, learned, you know, anxiety based, fear based ideas, right? Oh, I must do this. And, the thing is like there's this phrase, that meditation practice is kind of like, coming into direct relationship with your natural face. Right? And so it's not the face that, you know, it's your natural face, right? It's like directly you, right? It's not about being a particular thing for a particular person or based on a particular cultural representation that we feel like we need to hold up. It's just who we are, right? So we don't need to be much else. And when it comes to these ideas of putting in the time and, all that stuff, that's just a lot of like weird narrative um, that's usually based on other people's experiences than our own, right? And that we feel like, oh, I need to do exactly what so and so did. Yeah, Libra, you said it much more eloquently than I did. I'm like a bumbling idiot. All right. Um, so Melissa wrote, regarding the six nails, can I explain the difference between don't think and don't examine? Yeah. So so don't think. Well, don't examine. Is again kind of like getting into this weird need to kind of test. Oh, like is my experience right now like the embodiment of the Madhyamaka position, or does it align with the Yogacara position? Oh, you know, does the emptiness of my mind feel full, or does it feel empty, empty? This kind of like need to um, validate, right? So examining, it's it's a it's not, because there are aspects of the way Mahamudra that's practiced that can be more aligned with, um, I guess you could say, like analytic meditation, right? And so what we're looking to do is to not think, right? So the not thinking piece, some people can be very uncomfortable, feel uncomfortable about. So the Mahasiddha Maitreya, uh, you know, in his development of his form or way of practicing Mahamudra, focused on this idea of amanasikara, which is the basically the idea of cutting all conceptual activity, right? And so resting the mind in such a way that you cut all conceptual activity, and in the moment of doing that, then you directly experience spaciousness, right? Because the conceptuality of our mind, right? This like, oh, like right now, I'm sitting and there's a window in front of me, and then there's all this stuff I see out the window. In meditation, I can get wrapped up in spatial relationships and colors, and attachment or aversion with respect to what I may be seeing. Right? When we cut through that conceptual elaboration with, using awareness kind of like a sword or a big mallet, just like flattening everything, then we're able to kind of, experience a greater degree of the mind's luminosity and vastness. Right? So the not thinking is really cutting through the conceptual relationship that we have, or a conceptual habit, the conceptual bias that we have with respect to analyzing everything. Like, don't like, oh, this is that color, this color, cool color, warm color, blah, blah, blah. Don't examine is closely related, obviously, but it's much more rooted in having a need to do something other than rest. Right? It's almost like a restlessness. Needing to, this impulse to need to examine, this impulse to need to check, this impulse to need, and you frequently find this. I find this all the time where, I'll give an instruction to somebody and then, it leads to what they think is a very smart question that demonstrates how smart they are. Right? That's tangentially related to what we were just talking about. And I've done this, in the past with my teachers. There's this kind of like weird anxiety, need to be like, oh, like clarity is vast, and the vast is luminous, and now I feel blissful, and it's just this kind of regurgitation of a lot of stuff we've read, rooted primarily in our need to, feel like we're accomplishing something. Right? So that's why I say it's, mildly fear or anxiety based, right? We can't. It's kind of like, I mean, it's kind of like it's like whiteness, right? It's like being like sitting there, unable to just like be. There's something about whiteness, especially the way you find it in like demonstrations of like WASP culture, where they're for white people it could be like we're just like always anxious, always like it can't just be like hanging out like this and relaxing. It's got to be more product driven. It's got to be more project driven. It's got to be more timely. It's got to be more rooted in like the economy of praxis. It just can't be resting. Like that's fucking insane, man. Like that's lazy. So this kind of like anxiety. And we experience this anxiety at different points where we begin to rest very deeply in our practice, right? It just kind of naturally happens, and we will pull ourselves right out of that. Out of a fear of like, oh shit, like what's gonna happen if I just like let this all go? Like, am I just gonna go down this like rabbit hole? No existence? It feels very like, relaxing. It feels very freeing. But there's a part of me that's like, no, 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 no. Or you've established this one kind of samadhi. The moment we do that, we're dropping. It's just kind of like meeting someone for the first time, right? When you meet them for the first time, sometimes it can be a little awkward, and we get all like weird, right? So this needing to examine is a very similar kind of awkwardness. Right? So don't examine. Don't be good. I'm tired of people being good, asking like the profound question. But at the end of the day, like, that profound question is not going to, probably help you experience peace in the moment. Um, it's really, we become like a puffer fish and like blow ourselves up. So Nicole writes, I've been sitting with my own judgment lately, how it affects all aspects of my life, in particular compassion for others and myself. What tools would I suggest for working with this? So, it's a good question. There are a couple ways of approaching this. One is, well, like the kind of more Mahamudra way of approaching these kinds of things is to look into how your judgment is arising, right? To make the experience of judgment an object of your awareness, right? Or the focal point of your awareness, to gently hang the sweater of awareness on the hook of your judgment. Or place it on the back of the chair of your judgment, gently. And just observe it. Notice it. Notice its qualities. Notice why it comes up. When doesn't it come up? And what's different about that time, that session, that situation? I think that's a very powerful way of addressing it. And then, another piece is something that's a little bit more quote unquote constructive in the sense that you're constructing a kind of structure, and that would be to use a visualization practice. So again, I know that Trinley is leading this accumulation of mani accumulation, the mantra of Chinrezi, or Mani Padme Hum. So, you can use the form of somebody like Chinrezi or Tara or Medicine Buddha, or I introduced the other night, kind of on the fly, Vajrasattva, and rest into visualizing yourself as that particular Buddha, recite the mantra, and spend time, in this quote-unquote constructive way, constructing, blending into your being the kinds of qualities that are beneficial. Right? So if you're feeling judgmental, or if you're concerned about, how you can judge a situation or people, or, whatever it kind of gets in the way of being able to be free, then, focusing on the cultivation of the presence of a Buddha like Chinrezi, the Bodhisattva of compassion, or Vajrasattva, the Buddha of primordial purity, or Aryatara, or Medicine Buddha, and to let that form of being be something that provides you with the added resources to generate compassion for others. It's a Medicine Buddha is not like, okay, I'm going to heal everybody except for you, or these people, or Republicans, or, whatever, or like white men, or, whatever, or sharks, or alligators, everybody except for, viruses. So that can be helpful too. So, one is to be able to kind of, approach it from the perspective of nature of mind, and then the other is to be able to use, kind of in a much more tantric way, visualization, mantra recitation as a way of constructively developing qualities that you feel you may need, that you and others would benefit from. So let me know if that's not helpful. And there's a little bit of art, right? Like we don't have to say, like I don't know if anybody's ever seen like Picasso's early drawings, early watercolors. Um, they're incredible, and they're so classically realist. And he did them at such a like insanely young age. It's like absolutely stunning, right? And that is the basis, his artistic basis for his later abstraction. And I'm bringing this up because he was able to do both, right? He was able to be a realist and sketch and paint realistically, and then of course he was able to move into cubism and then abstraction, greater abstraction. As practitioners, it's helpful for us to remember that just because we may feel like we get more Mahamudra instruction than anything else, that we don't only have to move in that direction, right? That we can have a toolkit or a repertoire that includes a handful of things that are beneficial for us, right? Or that have meaning. So again, like just as if we're going to let go of ideas about what a particular investment of time means with respect to our practice or the investment of effort, then we should also forget about things having to be a particular way, right? And there's a part of us that also kind of looks at the need for like purity. Oh well, I'm purely blah blah blah. I'm purely somebody who practices Mahamudra. But you can do, deity practices like those, and, lojong and read philosophy and, encounter the entire Buddhist, canon as a dynamic practitioner. We don't have to be, purists in the sense of, well, I'm only this, that other stuff is just, conceptual elaboration and bullshit, because that's not going to serve us very well. It's kind of like we wouldn't, if we drive a car, right, or a bicycle, it wouldn't be like these are the only tires I'm ever going to have in my life. I'm never going to have another inner tube in my life. This inner tube is the inner tube, and then of course the cops, and you find yourself in a situation where you don't have the resilience or the ability to handle what circumstances are offering you. So, this, if we can move into having like an honest sense of skillfulness with respect to how we practice, that can also really be beneficial. Now I want to try and come back to this song, which is interestingly taking quite a while to get through. So what I'm going to do is I dog-eared where we left off. So this will be the third exciting episode of Mahamudra for the People, where we're looking at the song called The Jewel of the Heart, a mind teaching by Shabkar. So I'm going to read the whole thing one more time, and then we'll kind of get to the final portion of this. Excuse me. I'm in a very weird tight space that's not mine. So try and allow yourself to sit as comfortably as you can. And let the sound hit your ear, and let whatever happen from that point on happen. Namo Guru Prabhakare. Lord Drukpa, embodiment of all the unfailing objects of refuge, now and always I supplicate you. If you want to create some dharmic patterns, I shall now speak a few sincere words as a dharmic link. In general, It is only now that we obtain a human body. In particular, it is extremely rare to receive the threefold precepts. And if we don't endeavor in the correct Dharma practice, at this time when we have obtained a human body, it will be hard to find such a body in the future. Practice, therefore, now prostrations and circumambulations. Our enemy, Yama, the Lord of Death, is most powerful. It is never certain exactly when he will arrive. We may intend to do some Dharma practice, but death catches up. You should therefore right now abandon misdeeds and do what is virtuous. The sufferings of the three lower realms make our hearts quiver by simply hearing of them. When they actually befall us, what will we do? Thinking of that, avoiding misdeeds as if they were poison. While in these endless sufferings of samsara, the ones who can truly give refuge are the three jewels. Supplicate them constantly from your hearts. All sentient beings among the 6 classes of beings have been our parents for many past lives. How they suffer here in these samsaric realms. Dedicate to their well-being whatever Dharma practice you do. Visualize the perfect Lord Guru above your head. Regard her as truly being the essence that is the single embodiment of all the Buddhas of the realms of the 10 directions and 3 times. Supplicate her from deep within your heart. Let her melt into light and mingle your minds together. Without altering that, rest precisely in that state. The mind is not existent. It is not a concrete thing. It is not non-existent. Therefore, it can be a thought. Anything can be a thought. Sometimes the mind is quiet. Sometimes it thinks. You should always keep a watch on your mind. Your mind, the essence of which is empty, is the mental Dharmakaya, Amitabha. Your mind, the nature of which is luminous, is the mental Sambhogakaya, the great compassionate one. Your mind, the thinker of manifold things, is the mental image Nirmanakaya, Padmakara, or Guru Rinpoche. If you recognize it, it is the 5 Buddhas. When your mind is cognizant, look into the essence of cognizance. That is the Mahamudra of cognizant emptiness. When your mind is blissful, look into the essence of this bliss. That is the great perfection of blissful emptiness. When your mind is empty, look into the natural face of this emptiness. That is the great Madhyamaka of aware emptiness. When your mind is afraid, look into the essence of that which is afraid. That is the sacred teaching of Chu practice. Your mind that is empty of all concreteness, that is the empty mind, transcendent knowledge. Look into your mind whether you walk or whether you sit. Then, walking and sitting are the real circumambulations. Look into your mind whether you eat or whether you drink. Then eating and drinking are the undefiled feast offering. Look into your mind whether you lie down or whether you sleep. That is the instruction in recognizing the luminosity of sleep. When you are practicing the sadhanas of profound teachings, look into your own mind, the profound meaning. That will avert the maras and obstacles. Whatever you do right now of temporary things, do them as you would practice in the final moment of death. Whatever activities happen which beguile your mind, such as the talk and spectacles of many people, don't fall under the power of distraction, but without forgetting, be persistently mindful of this practice of the key point of profound meditation. Be able to have stability in that mindfulness. To be able to master this again and again is to be accustomed in the practice of meditation. So where we left off is where things start getting juicy. So this point, when your mind is cognizant, look into the essence of that cognizance. That is the Mahamudra of cognizant emptiness. So, we sometimes have very defined ideas of what meditation is, what non-meditation is, right? What's good and what's bad. Sometimes we preference the experience of lack of conceptual activity, right? The lack of cognition. This kind of just stillness. And sometimes we find ourselves really repressing and pushing down that which is naturally arising. Because again, we're trying to get to that which we think is preferred, spaciousness. They say, "Oh, the mind is spacious," and right now, my mind feels insane. It's just like a water wheel. There's very little effort. The water itself is just pushing all this stuff. So this week with what's going on in I haven't checked the news in a while, so I actually have no idea what's going on with respect to Pennsylvania and Arizona and Nevada and Trump's weird speeches in the middle of the night and like people with guns saying they should be witness to the counting of votes and ballots and stuff like that. So of course that produces a lot of activity, right? Everything. It's like, whoa, the president's crazy. Whoa, this. Whoa, that. Whoa, blah, 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 blah. Right? And so the practice of Mahamudra, or the practice of meditation, in a more general sense, is being with that. If that's what's alive. And that's sometimes profoundly disappointing. Like, oh man, we'll look at different images of Buddha or great past masters, all the great, Mahasiddhas, and really kind of, prefer that. Oh, like, look, they look incredible. They look like they're practicing meditation and it's so profound. And here I am, worrying about, or being so tired, right? It's a Friday. This is big. This is my, place of suffering is like Friday evening, I feel like a zombie, right? So I'm very tired, and when I'm tired and I sit in meditation, then it's just like like that weird like wonky wow feeling of just like whoa, exhaustion, right? But so the question then becomes how to just rest into that without preference. Like, oh, I need to be more wakeful, whatever that is, right? Oh, I need to, modulate, change it. I need to make it better, more profound. And that's it. Sometimes we're tired, sometimes we're worn out. And that is okay, and in those moments, then some of our work becomes looking at how we relate, truly to the experience of just, ordinary cognition. And then to look into the essence of that cognition, to look into the essence of tired. What is tired? To look into the essence of jitteriness. To look into the essence of anxiety. That's what's coming up. And so again, we're not really looking for like this evil machine inside of us that's producing all this like stuff that we don't prefer. But we're really engaging in the practice of trying to better understand what it is that's happening. Because typically all we're doing is reacting to like, oh shit, man, I'm so tired, blah, 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 blah. I can't concentrate. Oh, this, oh, that, oh, now I'm grumpy because I'm tired, and all we're doing is like, it's completely irresponsible, like automatic, um, just reactivity, anxiety. It's like anxiety makes people like fast and like obsessive, right? So, rather than get into the reactivity, we're trying to allow, the Mahamudra piece is just the application of natural, relaxed awareness to whatever it is that's coming up and looking directly into that. So Sarah asks, can you share a bit about how the body / being in the body can come into play with all of this? So in my particular case, it's exhaustion, right? So my body's tired, and it always is on Friday, and so it's just letting that be. As kind of boring as that can sound sometimes, just being with that. Like, wow, I'm tired right now. In the morning, if I can, get enough sleep, I'll wake up feeling incredible. And so this tiredness is temporary, right? It's not something where I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like this for the whole rest of my life. Sometimes it can feel that way, right? But again, holding all of this with this sense of spaciousness allows us to be, reminded of the fact that everything that arises is impermanent, right? Okay, I'm tired in this moment. My body is exhausted. What is the experience of mind in this moment? Like, I am physically tired, emotionally a little drained, and yet, what is the experience of awareness like? Because the experience of awareness, right, is that knowing quality that allows me to feel my shoulders, to feel that tightness, right? Or to feel like, I don't have a headache, but it feels like there's a massive hand cupping the back of my head. And then, yeah, I can feel like my muscles in my arms being kind of drained, right? But that awareness, right, there's a sense of wakefulness. That's not tired, right? That doesn't feel tired. What is that? What is that? So the big thing is like, I kind of do have to take issue a little bit sometimes with like contemporary Western mindfulness, secular mindfulness in particular. It's so body oriented, right? That we're like, feel into your body. It's like, okay, I'm going to speak totally frankly. I don't feel this way, but like, what if your body feels like shit? What if you're like so tired, so worn out? It's like we're trying to make sense of this election. Like the whole fate of the world is kind of like, you know, basically riding to some extent, not to glorify like, America, but like, the impact that we have, globally is so important that like it's just like so much, right? So if the basis of our mindfulness practice is only body, when we feel like fried, it becomes very hard to practice. right? We kind of have developed this myopia, right? So yeah, my shoulders are tight. My head feels weird, like this big hands are just like kind of holding it. It's not pressure, but it's not totally relaxed. Um, you my throat is a little like froggy, all that stuff, and that's fine. And there's so much more, right? There's this the awareness quality, that wakefulness of awareness of mind. How can we bring that into this experience? So, like another really good example of this, I think, is I mentioned this before in other contexts, and I mentioned it in modern tantric Buddhism. Like, in the early '90s when Tricycle magazine first came out, I was like a huge nerd and in high school, and subscribed to it. And I remember very vividly this article on whether or not morphine should be given to people who were at the end of life, right? And the Buddhist kind of conception of the way death, the moving into death works, is that the cultivation of awareness at the time of death is paramount. And then, kind of just secondary to that, is the experience of general well-being, right? So wakefulness that's also peaceful, right? We're not agitated, because going into the death state with this like intense agitation is also not very beneficial for trying to bring meditation into the dying process. And so, years later or decades later, when I became a hospice chaplain, I was working with a Buddhist teacher who was dying and had a form of cancer that ended up basically kind of impacting their spine. And so it's very, 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 very painful. And they were having a really hard time getting their mind around the fact that they might have to take morphine, right, for the pain. And in hospice, you learn pretty quickly that morphine is really the only beneficial thing for intense shortness of breath, the anxiety related to intense shortness of breath, right? So it's not that it's like given super freely, but it's a regular course of most people's hospice experience, especially as they kind of experience increased shortness of breath, if they do. And so I spent a lot of time in conversation with this person about that tricycle article a long time ago, their personal thoughts about it, my own interactions with Dharma teachers in Asia, kind of talking about this, and then experiences of teachers and friends of mine who have died and who had to take various kinds of medication. And so this person eventually ended up on morphine, and I went to go see them, and they were very like just defeated. Get to their Dharma center where they were living, and their students are caring for them, and we get our time together, and I ask them how they're doing, and they're like, "Fucking man, I'm taking morphine now. Like I'm there goes my meditation practice, basically, right?" And so I asked them if we could sit together. Can we do a little meditation together? Maybe with both of us practicing together, something will happen. And they're like, yeah, whatever. And so we sit, and afterwards, I asked them, what was that like? And they said, well, I could tell that there was the impact of morphine on my body. My body felt sluggish. Like I feel a little woozy, like a little like hazy, foggy kind of thing. I was like, okay, like that's good. I was like, and how do you know that? I'm just curious. Like, how do you know that? Um, and it was like a lightning bolt struck, right? Because there's this very clear indication that there is this quality of mind, this awareness quality, right? The knowing, but it's not the brain, right? And this kind of gets to Clarissa's question. Like, mind is not brain, mind is not heart, mind is not big toe, mind is not knee, mind is not genitals, mind is not lungs. And yet, mind pervades all of these things. It pervades our body, but it's not localized to our body. And awareness is not our brain. Awareness is not something you can drug. Awareness is something we may have very little relationship to because we're just constantly reacting to stuff like our emotions, appearance. I like things orderly. Everything's fucking messy. Like I am in a state of agitation because of that. Right? So the awareness of everything is, even in the state of agitation, there's clarity of mind. Right? But usually our reactivity is so intense or distracting. It doesn't have to be like, Beethoven intense. It could be, the intensity of like flirtatious desire, right? A little bit lighter in tone, right? But it just keeps us distracted. So, anyway, all of this is to say that I think generally in the kind of Western mindfulness, especially American mindfulness, like MBSR kind of stuff, not a bad thing, but I think that it's limited in that it's only body. So the doing body scans is great, right? It's great for kind of like getting out of our headiness with respect to specifics. But then there's the larger aspect of mind as well. And I think, my critique of mindfulness really is that it has been pulled out of this much more sophisticated kind of context, which we find in the Buddhist tradition, that relates to the essence of mind. So MBSR, that's cool, but like, where's the nature of mind in the way that's taught? Where is the emphasis on awareness that ends up transcending time and space? So anyway, I'm probably like rubbing some people the wrong way, and I don't mean to, but I do mean to poke a little bit at some of these assumptions we have, because again, that's what this practice is asking us to do, right? Just because our personal meditation background may have been rooted in that does not mean that we always need to stay there, right? And that we can move and evolve, etc. And so Payne says, is it fair to say that knowing is dumb? I see the text saying it's like a corpse in a charnel ground. It seems just like, okay, there it is, no matter what's going on. Yeah, so awareness, it's not that it's dumb, or it's dumb if being dumb means that you're non-referential, right? Non-preferential. Right? Awareness is knowing that is not, there's no preference involved. It's just letting things happen. It is letting everything arise. And when we think about this, I'll give you a good example. So, before I was a chaplain, and as a way to kind of pay for, all these trips back and forth between here and Asia, I was a contractor. So I did interior renovation work. So I could do carpentry and stonework and plastering and electrical work and plumbing, all that. I did that for a long time, and it was great because when the economy was good, the pay was really good, and it was project specific. So at the end of a project, I could say, okay, I got my money. I'm going to go to India for 3 months, 6 months, or in some cases a year, and then pick back up, um, when I came back, and the I just forgot, the point of that. Oh, the point of it was that while I was a contractor, I worked for many people who were very spiritual, like very, almost like professional spiritual people. And they were the most neurotic people. Like, and they would be like, I want, not only do we want, like, the walls replastered, like we want the most elaborate decorative finish, and it needs to mimic the, like, this, like, North African or sub-Saharan kind of texture I have in this pot, this ceramics, and the tightness and the rigidity um, was just always like mind blowing. Wonderful people, like engaging, fun to be with, like all that stuff. But the need to control and the strict ideas always kind of cracked me up. And so I bring this up because sometimes we need to let go of some of these strict ideas we have about everything. Right? So Mahamudra is like just a corpse. It's dead. It doesn't care. It can't do anything. It's not going to get up. It has no preference. It has no fucking need for everything to look like, it came from some, like, other culture, a variety of indigenous cultures. Like it's not that. It just is, right? And so letting go into just is hard. So when we look at it, I like to sometimes talk about like sacred cows. Like, we all have sacred cows, and sometimes it's helpful to turn them into piñatas and beat them up. Right? Sometimes it's helpful to just like shake all that shit off and get fresh and free. And it doesn't mean we give it up for forever, but it means that we challenge, how deep the groove of our habits become. So Astrid writes, in case of physical pain, though it might not be beneficial to explore the felt sense of it to understand that it may be merely perceptual / based on assumptions, fears, etc., especially if it's distracting. This does not reveal the nature of mind. So no, so I think this is a good point, and so I'm not trying to say you go down deep into your pain, right, like into my shoulders right now, like, but it's to recognize, right, the awareness of tense shoulders is an awareness. That's it. The world is distracting. I think part of Mahamudra is breaking this preferred lens. I had this like really weird passing thought like a week ago. I was like, oh, maybe I'll take up photography, and I started like looking up like old cameras because I thought it'd be cool. And then it's like, I don't know, it was just a passing thought, but really basically. And like our lenses, it just says like, cameras have, not digital cameras, but film cameras have lenses. Like our lenses, we need to make sure that they're not, just stuck in one position. Right? Mahamudra is actually kind of like a little bit like throwing the lens away. Right? So I think we make too much of physical pain. I'm not saying we should not account for physical pain, or we shouldn't care for ourselves or care for others or care about the way pain manifests as a result of trauma and stuff like that. So none of what I'm saying is meant to be taken, in an absolute sense. But I think that if we can begin to move away from, I'm aware of how tired I am. Yeah, I'm tired, and I have kids and a partner, and we're going to need to get our evening on, and um, attend to the kids and attend to cleaning and attend to all of that. And if I make such a big deal out of my physical discomfort, right, then everything else becomes a little bit more problematic, right? So that corpse-like awareness is just like, oh, like, man, I'm worn out, and I've got stuff I need to take care of, and I can do both without preferencing one over the other. Oh, why am I tired, man? I hate being tired. And I get like that, definitely. Oh, I'm resentful of how tired I am every Friday. Why does it feel like everything's sucking the life out of me? And so when I get into that like level of obsession about it, then everything else feels unsurmountable and not happy. That doesn't make me happy. But when I'm able to recognize, oh, like, I'm basically like, a deflated balloon, that's okay, and I'm gonna move on and be there. So like, anyway, so this is where I think kind of like, there's been this like American twist to meditation into the wellness world that preferences physical, the addressment of like the physicality of ourselves, which is necessary. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not an extremist, but it's helpful to understand that it's really our relationship to everything around us is rooted not only in the physical, but it's this co-emergent relationship. It's both at once. It's a physical, and it's also understanding mind. You know, yeah. So like the killing sacred cows, we should barbecue them, invite Rod over. We could have it soak. But I'm serious about that. Like, and so you find in some of these songs, and I'll see if I can get to the host later, like songs by Saraha, who great Mahasiddha, who really poked fun at everybody, and he was vicious. Like, don't take everything so seriously. Don't take everything so seriously. Your Buddhism, your Hinduism, your whatever you are, your Jainism, like, like at the end of the day, sometimes it's just helpful to laugh at ourselves. That's a very good Mahamudra practice. But so really what Shabkar is saying, when your mind is cognizant, look into the essence of cognizance. That is the Mahamudra of cognizant emptiness. Right? So looking into the nature, the way that we think and conceive of and conceptualize what's going on. So my Friday night blues, like, oh man, I'm tired, blah blah blah, like why don't we have like on Fridays like a butler and a maid and a masseuse all come over, and because we don't, and that's fine. But like, just when I obsess, everything is terrible, right? So getting into that really kind of nitty gritty thing through meditation allows us to get free from that. Volunteering. I work too hard, man. So Travis writes, is there a preference when it comes to behavior? Like, I'm tired, no problem, therefore acting grumpy, problem. Is the result of no preference that I won't be grumpy when I'm tired? Not necessarily. My present teacher, Gyaltsen Rinpoche, is volunteering to be the butler. Thank you, Ken. Is the like Gyaltsen Rinpoche is fast, right? So a lot of like us spiritual people like things that are slow and calm and relaxed. Everything is, at my pace. Just so blissful. Gyaltsen Rinpoche is like fast as hell. The first time I, the first time I like went to go see him, um, to formally ask if I could be his student after Bokor Rinpoche died. He was in. It was actually a very, very, very fortunate situation. He was in retreat at the time. In the monastery, it was a rainy season retreat, and our jeep couldn't get past the road, so we walked 12 kilometers, and my oldest son was probably like 7 at the time. My parents were with me, and we walked all this way and get to the monastery, and they're like, "Oh, Rinpoche's in retreat," and I'm like, "Ah, shit, man, like that's not good, you know." And then all of a sudden, there's a blur just flew by, and I was like, "What the hell was that?" Like literally, and what I didn't know was it was him, and he had left his retreat and would to make himself available, and so they're like, "Oh, Rinpoche will see you. Like, you're very lucky." And so, went into the audience room, and he was there. When he sits, trying to find something like to fidget with, like he'd give instruction, and in the free time, he's just like fidgeting, like with stuff, spinning him around. He's got a short temper. Um, uh, he's got high blood pressure. He, gets frustrated with people quickly, right? And all that stuff is fine, right? That's not the only reason why I'm his student, but when I got to know him, because he was always very scary to me, and he still can be. That's what I really admired in a teacher. I felt like I needed to have somebody who was scary and fast and would be in the middle of teaching and then all of a sudden say, okay, that's it for now, go, and I would just have to go. Or the last time I saw him, literally, and go, it's like this long process to get to the monastery, fly to India, take a plane across India, take a 7-hour jeep ride, and I've gotten to be able to do it all in one like thing. So it's like ends up being like over 24 hours of intense travel. But you got there, see him, and he was like, "Oh, you know, I really wanted to be in retreat right now, and like that's much more meaningful than having to teach you." And I'm just like, what the hell, man? Like, but I was like, oh, but but I need to hear this. Like, this is good. So, you know, I'm saying all of this because I also simultaneously don't want to preference not being grumpy. You know, that's not a problem. When we think like it's got to be, I have to be like this all the time, and oh, thank you, and oh, I've got my bowl of, food and peaceful music playing, and like that's okay, right? But that's not the way mind works, and that's not the way experience works, right? So when somebody comes in and shakes you and is like, yelling something at you, right? The question then becomes for us as practitioners is like, am I going to get so angry at being in that experience that I will like smack them, or get so depressed that they were shaking me and yelling at me that I have no like effectiveness. And I was teaching a little bit on Dharma protectors the other night, and the thing about our practice is we should be able to rise up and to recognize that there is power in the experience of awareness. There's power in our breath. There's power in the space that we inhabit, right? In our bodies and then in relationship to the external world. And so to even let go of the preference of idealized Buddhist, and I'm teasing a little bit, Travis, but like this call and response of like, you know, activity, reaction, you know, just let go of it all. You know, be a corpse. You know, if you're grumpy, and that's fine. You know, um, so you know, and Nicole, that's a good point. It's good to realize that you don't have to be nice all the time to be kind. Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you know, again, like like you know, a very important thing to remember is like, are we being nice to be liked or to fit in? You know, and then as Dharma practitioners, do we do it to look fucking shiny? You know, check my shit out, man. I'm not reacting at all. Inside, I'm gloating. Outside, I'm like the most peaceful guy in the Dharma Center. Shiny, chill, you know, vegan. I got my yoga pants on, like all that stuff. Like, you know, I am like the bomb. You know, so rather than like get all like that, it's just like what happens if we're just like, you know, authentically embodied, and on a day where we're like I'm tired, or on a different day when we're grumpy or overwhelmed or passionate, you know, oh my, like I'm just so like enraptured with everything right now, to just be that, you know, and not worry so much. um you know, so I'm gonna go on because I know this is, we got like 10 minutes or 11 minutes here. But so in a very similar vein, you know, this text goes on to say, when your mind is blissful, look at the essence of this bliss, right? So that's the same thing. This, you know, deep spiritual passion, like, oh, I'm, you know, feeling that. So look into the bliss, right? That's the great perfection. That is the great perfection of blissful emptiness. Right? When your mind is empty, look into the natural face of this emptiness. That is the great Madhyamaka of aware emptiness. When the mind is afraid, look into the essence of that which is afraid, right? So, like, afraid. Um, there's so many different places we can feel fear, right? We can feel, you know, fear from the threat of violence. We can feel fear just doing something for the first time, right? Not in a particularly intense situation, but I am like, with the exception of certain things, I'm a shitty baker when it comes to baking cakes. Like it's just always a horrible disaster, and so I have like a special kind of fear every time I'm like, well, I'm gonna try and bake a cake this time. Um, and you know, the fear isn't like, oh my god, I'm terrified, but it's more like I'm fearful that I'm going to put all this time into this, right? And it's going to turn out a disaster. So, of course, it doesn't always have to be like the most intense, violent related fear. Um, and that, you know, confronting this fear, right? Confronting it in the sense of being a corpse in relationship to fear, just letting it be. And again, like, anyway, so in the text it says, like, this is the essence of what Cha is, right? So Cha that we practice on Tuesdays. The earlier in the year, I had described, you know, the process of resting in meditation along the lines of trying to be like a bird. You know, so imagining a bird to sit in a tree right near you, and the bird is just observing. You know, the bird doesn't care how much money you spent on your clothes, or bird certainly really doesn't care about your haircut, or if you've shaved, or how educated you may be. The bird doesn't care about, you know, how well, you know, coiffed, or your, how neatly trimmed your fingernails are, or how your Dharma practices. The bird is just there. Bird's just, you know, basically the bird is chilling, right? And so the thing is like, how can we get into a practice that allows us, as this text points out, to be able to look into the essence of cognizance, to be able to look into the experience of blissfulness, to be able to look into the experience of fear, just letting those things arise, right? So, and then in that, applying that fresh awareness of the bird or the corpse or the rock or the air. Like another really interesting metaphor is the air around us. Even when I inhale the air and the air, merges with my blood through the alveoli in my lungs, the air doesn't care about me. The air's just there. And I'm not like, oh shit, man, there's air everywhere. It's just this very natural relationship. So how can we let everything happen without this just like fundamental freak out of like, oh my God, man, I can't stop thinking. Oh my God, man, I'm so like blissful and passionate. Oh my God, I'm so afraid or dejected or, again, it's every kind of emotion, attachment, jealousy, all that stuff. And so, and I know we're doing good on time. So, Shabkar then goes on to say that your mind that is empty of all concreteness, right? So all structure, that is the empty mind, transcendent knowledge, the concreteness. So, like all the clients I've had who are like, I am a this and a that, and, I'm super spiritual, and I'm a musician and an artist and a writer, and, I'm a thinker, and I'm an activist. It's like goes on, right? That's great, man. That's cool. Like, I'm going to paint your apartment. I'm going to build you cabinets. I'm going to replace your floor or whatever, right? I'm going to be Mahamudra in your space. And you can be Brahman about it, right? You can be very pure. I'm going to be very direct and get the work done. So, how can we become this experience of empty mind that is transcendent knowledge, that is empty of all concreteness? And that's hard, it's hard, especially in America, because I feel like here we are, we're struggling, we struggle in relationship to so many things, the identities that are projected onto us, right? So, and part of that is our own fault, right? We go around saying, oh, this is what this person is. That's what that person is. This is what this person is. This is what their clothes mean. Like, what a weird nightmare. Your clothes mean things. I could tell from the way they were dressed, blah, 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 blah. Body language, I once knew somebody who was like, man, your body language is crazy. And I'm like, but I'm not, but they had very strong ideas about body language. Everything is being constantly defined. We are constantly being defined by others, right? And then we're simultaneously defining ourselves in relationship to others, right? So it's like constant structure. And it is so intense. Like, it's not surprising that we end up suffering when we, when we experience this. Yes, I'm like a cisgender white male. I don't particularly think I chose this form, but this is the form that I am, right? And yes, that means that there are a whole load of preferences that are available to me because of the way our society's structured. And yes, then there's my whole host of projections of imperfection and all sorts of other things onto me. And so it's like, what narrative am I really living? And so this is one of the really therapeutic kind of applications of Mahamudra is to be able to begin to get comfortable with just like, unzipping everything and just being like, man, this shit is too much. Like, I'm gonna, I just don't need it right now. Like, I don't need all of the definition. I don't need all the structure. In fact, it's driving me crazy. I'm suffering as a result of it, because I don't see people authentically. They don't see me authentically. We don't end up relating authentically. And it's not to say that anybody's necessarily even wrong, because we're all, you know, falling into the habits of our projections based on our experience. Right? So of course there's a certain logic that applies to why we do what we do when we put people in boxes, right? But what Mahamudra is asking us to do is just like break that up. And that also means begin to start breaking ourselves up too. So it can be uncomfortable, which is why sometimes we'll get into these experiences where things begin to really loosen up and we really begin to relax, right? And it's almost as if we're like oozing out from the hard structure of my identity. And we're like, and there's a part of us like it's very scared and pulls us back, and it's like, whoa, man, no, don't let that go, because that's who you are, that's that's your point of reference, right? And so I invite people, over the next week to begin to look at that. And actually the process of journaling can be really helpful sometimes in just, journaling, like what are my hard edges? Like how much of my identity is calcified to the point of like, this is what I am. Or this is what I enjoy being for other people, there's a performative element. And sometimes that's fun until it's not. And then we're like, oh my God, and everybody just sees me as this or that, and we suffer in relationship. And if you don't mind, I'm just going to go on for like 5 or 7 more minutes, if that's okay. Actually, I know some people are going to go to this other group, right? I feel like I'm, suffering in relationship to structured time. Well, I'll pause here and come back to this next week. The structure of the moment has totally, Lorraine's got to run. So I'm going to honor the structures that keep us suffering. No, I'm going to stop, Lorraine. I don't want you to miss it. So, in this moment, I want to dedicate, any merit from these kind of rambling teachings. I hope that they're okay and that the lineage masters don't smite me down tonight. This particular moment, I dedicate any benefit from this or anything that we do together in relationship as a Sangha to the further development and unfolding of the Sangha, and that the Sangha is able to generate practitioners who are able to cut through all of their limitations, cut through all of the intense structure that keeps us like caged birds. And I dedicate this to smashing all of the sacred cows, breaking up all of our cool identities, so that we can experience mind fresh, free, without edge, without center. So, with that, I wish you all the best, and take good care of yourselves. And if you can, take a look at some of these places where we get stuck, especially with respect to identity. It's kind of a real big sacred cow. And it's worth poking a little bit. So, thank you all.